Did you know that beneath the carefully crafted public images of Hollywood's biggest stars during its golden age lurked secrets that could have instantly destroyed their careers? While audiences swooned over romantic scenes between leading men and their glamorous female co-stars, many of these same actors were living double lives, engaging in clandestine relationships that the powerful studio system worked tirelessly to conceal. James Dean. Few stars burned as briefly or as brightly as James Dean. In just three major films, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant, Dean established himself as the voice of rebellious youth before his tragic death in a car accident at age 24 in 1955. His brooding intensity, vulnerable masculinity, and raw emotional performances revolutionized screen acting and created an enduring cultural icon whose influence extends far beyond his short filmography. Behind Dean's meteoric rise to fame lay a complex sexual identity that has been the subject of speculation and debate for decades. Unlike many of his contemporaries who lived strictly closeted lives, Dean appeared to approach sexuality with a more fluid, experimental attitude that defied easy categorization. This ambiguity has transformed him into not just a film legend, but also a queer icon whose authentic approach to identity seemed decades ahead of his time. Several of Dean's close associates have suggested he engaged in relationships with both men and women. Jonathan Gilmour, a friend of Dean's, claimed in his 1975 book, The Real James Dean, that he and the actor had intimate encounters. William Bast, Dean's roommate and biographer, eventually revealed that he had been one of Dean's lovers. Bast initially concealed this aspect of their relationship in his first book about Dean, published in 1956, but later acknowledged it in a subsequent biography decades later when attitudes had shifted. Director Nicholas Ray, who worked with Dean on Rebel Without a Cause, once remarked that Dean was not straight, he was not gay, he was bisexual. This assessment aligns with Dean's own reported comment that while he was not homosexual, he was certainly not going through life with one hand tied behind his back. Such statements suggest Dean approached sexuality with an openness rare for his era, particularly for a rising Hollywood star. Dean's supposed relationship with actor Marlon Brando has become one of the most persistent rumors in Hollywood history. According to various accounts, including Darwin Porter's controversial biography Brando Unzipped, the two actors engaged in a passionate affair. The truth of this claim remains unverifiable, but the speculation highlights how both men represented a new, more emotionally expressive and sexually ambiguous form of masculinity that challenged Hollywood conventions. Unlike many gay or bisexual actors of his era, Dean seemed less concerned with hiding his authentic self, instead cultivating an image of rebellious nonconformity that extended to sexual matters. His notorious audition for East of Eden opposite Paul Newman has been described as crackling with homoerotic tension, fueling decades of speculation about both actors. While Newman maintained a strictly heterosexual public image throughout his life, the screen test has become legendary in discussions of queer Hollywood history. Dean's premature death means we'll never know how he might have navigated his sexual identity had he lived longer, or how his career might have evolved in an industry hostile to sexual difference. What remains is the image of a young man who seemed determined to live authentically, however briefly, creating in the process an enduring symbol of rebellion against all forms of conformity, including sexual. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando revolutionized screen acting with his electrifying performances in films like A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather. His method-based approach, bringing unprecedented psychological realism to his roles, established him as perhaps the most influential actor of the 20th century. While his professional innovations transformed cinema, Brando's personal life was equally revolutionary in its rejection of conventional sexual boundaries. Unlike many of his contemporaries who kept their same-sex relationships strictly hidden, Brando spoke with remarkable candor about his sexual experiences with men, particularly later in his life. In a 1976 interview with a French journalist, Brando stated, "Homosexuality is so much in fashion, it no longer makes news. Like a large number of men, I too have had homosexual experiences, and I am not ashamed." This level of openness was extraordinary for a leading man of his stature, especially one known for hyper-masculine roles. Brando's alleged relationship with James Dean has become legendary in discussions of queer Hollywood history. While definitive evidence of this particular liaison remains elusive, multiple biographers, including Darwin Porter in Brando Unzipped, have claimed Brando engaged in relationships with several male Hollywood figures, including Cary Grant, Montgomery Clift, and Sir John Gielgud. These claims, while difficult to verify conclusively, align with Brando's own admissions about his fluid sexuality. Beyond his relationships with men in the entertainment industry, Brando reportedly had an affair with comic Wally Cox, whom he described as the love of his life. When Cox died in 1973, Brando kept his ashes for many years, eventually scattering them in the same location as his own. This deep connection with Cox represents one of the most significant emotional attachments in Brando's life, transcending his numerous marriages and affairs with women. What makes Brando's sexual fluidity particularly remarkable is how it contradicted his screen persona. As Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire, he created one of cinema's definitive images of aggressive heterosexual masculinity. The contrast between this iconic role and his personal openness to same-sex relationships highlights the complex performance of gender and sexuality that characterized Hollywood both on and off-screen during this era. Unlike many gay or bisexual actors who suffered personally and professionally because of their sexuality, Brando's stature in the industry was so towering that he could afford a degree of honesty unavailable to lesser stars. His 2 Academy Awards and unparalleled critical acclaim provided a level of protection that allowed him to acknowledge aspects of his life that would have destroyed other careers. However, even Brando maintained certain boundaries, generally discussing his same-sex encounters only in broad terms and rarely naming specific partners. Brando's approach to sexuality, like his approach to acting, was characterized by a rejection of artificial constraints and a commitment to authentic experience. In both his art and his life, he pushed boundaries and challenged conventions, creating new possibilities for those who followed. His willingness to acknowledge his sexual fluidity, however limited by the standards of today, represented a significant step toward greater honesty about the complexity of human sexuality in an industry built on carefully maintained illusions. Tab Hunter, with his all-American good looks, blonde hair, and dazzling smile, Tab Hunter epitomized the clean-cut heartthrob of the 1950s. His popularity soared with films like Battle Cry and Damn Yankees, while his recording of Young Love topped the charts in 1957. Teen magazines featured him extensively, and his fan club reportedly exceeded those of Elvis Presley and James Dean at its peak. Behind this carefully manufactured image of wholesome heterosexual appeal, however, Hunter harbored a secret that could have instantly destroyed his career. Born Arthur Gellion in New York City, Hunter's transformation into a teen idol began when he met agent Henry Wilson, the same man who discovered and named Rock Hudson. Wilson, who specialized in marketing handsome young men to Hollywood, gave him the name Tab Hunter and set about building his image as the ideal American boy. This process included not only acting and voice lessons, but also the careful concealment of Hunter's homosexuality. Hunter's sexuality became a public issue in 1955, when the scandal magazine Confidential published a story about his 1950 arrest at a pajama party attended by gay men. This potentially career-ending exposure was actually orchestrated by Wilson in a calculated betrayal. When Confidential threatened to publish an article about Wilson's most valuable client, Rock Hudson, the agent offered them the story about Hunter's arrest instead, sacrificing the lesser star to protect his primary investment. Remarkably, Hunter survived this exposure. The studio decided to ignore the story, correctly gambling that many fans would refuse to believe it, and Hunter's career continued to flourish. However, the incident increased his awareness of his vulnerability and the need for extreme caution. In his 2005 autobiography, Tab Hunter Confidential, he described feeling painfully isolated, stranded between the casual homophobia of most normal people and the flagrantly gay Hollywood subculture, where I was even less comfortable and less accepted. Despite these pressures, Hunter maintained several significant relationships with men, most notably a 3-year romance with Psycho star Anthony Perkins. This relationship was conducted with extreme discretion, as both men were major stars whose careers depended on maintaining heterosexual public images. According to Hunter's autobiography, the relationship ended when Perkins, ambitious for greater career success, began working with Hunter's agent behind his back, creating both professional and personal betrayal. Like many gay actors of his era, Hunter participated in studio-arranged dates with women to maintain his public image. He was linked with actresses like Natalie Wood and Debbie Reynolds in carefully staged public appearances designed to generate publicity while reinforcing his heterosexual persona. These beards helped maintain the illusion demanded by studios and audiences alike during an era when homosexuality was not only stigmatized, but criminalized in many states. As the studio system declined in the late 1950s and early 1960s, so did Hunter's film career. He found work in television and dinner theater before experiencing an unexpected career resurgence in the 1980s with roles in John Waters' Colloin Fuse Polyester and the Western parody Lust in the Dust. These later roles played with his former heartthrob image and allowed him a measure of self-aware humor about his past. In 2005, at age 74, Hunter publicly came out in his autobiography, finally acknowledging what had been rumored for decades. This belated honesty came in an era when such revelations no longer carried the same professional risk, allowing Hunter to achieve a level of authenticity that had been impossible during his years as a leading man. His story represents both the oppressive constraints of Golden Age Hollywood and the possibility of eventual liberation from them, however delayed. Rock Hudson. In the pantheon of Hollywood heartthrobs, few shined as brightly as Rock Hudson. His chiseled jawline, towering 6 feet 5 inches frame, and smoldering gaze made him the epitome of masculine appeal throughout the 1950s and early 1960s. Audiences flocked to theaters to see him romance leading ladies like Doris Day and Elizabeth Taylor, completely unaware that the man they idolized was living an elaborate charade orchestrated by the Hollywood studio system. Born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in Winnetka, Illinois, Hudson's transformation into a silver screen idol began when he met notorious Hollywood agent Henry Wilson. Wilson, who specialized in discovering and developing handsome young men for the movies, immediately recognized Hudson's potential and set about reshaping him into the ideal male star. This included giving him a more marketable name, Rock from the Rock of Gibraltar, and Hudson from the Hudson River, symbolizing strength and Americana. What audiences didn't know was that both Hudson and Wilson were gay, operating in an industry where such an identity meant professional suicide. Under Wilson's guidance, Hudson became Universal Studios' most bankable star, appearing in films like Magnificent Obsession, Giant, which earned him an Oscar nomination, and the hugely successful romantic comedies with Doris Day. Meanwhile, Wilson worked tirelessly to protect Hudson's image, going so far as to arrange a marriage for him with his secretary, Phyllis Gates, in 1955. The marriage lasted only 3 years before ending in divorce, and though presented to the public as a normal heterosexual union, the reality was far different. In 1958, during their divorce proceedings, Gates secretly recorded a confrontation with Hudson about his sexuality. In this painful recording, which only became public decades later, Gates directly questioned Hudson about his homosexual activities, asking how soon after their marriage he had engaged in them. Hudson, reportedly in tears, couldn't deny the truth of his orientation, but expressed feeling unloved in their relationship. Throughout his time as a leading man, Hudson maintained numerous same-sex relationships, including a significant romance with Lee Garlington in the early 1960s. Garlington later recalled they were ordered never to have our picture taken together because somebody would know that we were gay. This level of secrecy and vigilance was necessary in an era when a gay scandal could instantly end a career. The public facade and private reality created enormous psychological strain for Hudson, who was forced to live in constant fear of exposure. Hudson's life of secrecy continued for decades until 1985, when he became the first major celebrity to die from AIDS-related illness. His death marked a turning point in public awareness of the AIDS epidemic and eventually led to posthumous revelations about his true sexual identity. The man who had represented the Hollywood ideal of heterosexual masculinity for an entire generation was finally revealed to have been living a completely different truth behind carefully guarded studio doors. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott. Few actors embodied sophisticated charm and debonair masculinity more completely than Cary Grant. Born Archibald Leach in Bristol, England, Grant transformed himself into the quintessential leading man, starring in classics like North by Northwest, To Catch a Thief, and An Affair to Remember. His impeccable comedic timing, distinctive voice, and seemingly effortless elegance made him one of the most beloved stars of Hollywood's golden age. Yet behind Grant's carefully constructed public persona lay what many film historians now believe was a complex personal life that included romantic relationships with men. Most notably, Grant shared a beach house in Malibu with fellow actor Randolph Scott for over a decade, beginning in the late 1930s. While their living arrangement was publicly presented as a cost-saving measure between two bachelor friends, many in Hollywood's inner circles understood it to be a romantic partnership. The Malibu beach house, nicknamed Bachelor Hall by the press, became a fixture in film industry gossip. Grant and Scott were photographed together in domestic settings, cooking together, lounging poolside, and generally appearing as a couple comfortable in their shared domesticity. These photos, published in fan magazines of the era, were presented as innocent glimpses into the lives of two handsome bachelors, but they take on new meaning when viewed through a contemporary lens. Despite this arrangement, both men maintained heterosexual public images through multiple marriages. Grant was married 5 times to women throughout his career, while Scott married twice. These marriages served a dual purpose, providing cover for their relationship while satisfying the demands of studios concerned with protecting their valuable stars from scandal. The pattern of Hollywood actors engaged in lavender marriages, marriages of convenience to hide homosexuality, was common practice during this era. Scotty Bowers, a former Marine who became infamous as a procurer of sexual partners for Hollywood stars, claimed in his controversial memoir, Full Service, and the documentary based on it, that he had been sexually involved with both Grant and Scott. According to Bowers, the three of us got into a lot of sexual mischief together. While such claims remain difficult to verify, they align with persistent rumors that circulated throughout Hollywood for decades. The true nature of Grant and Scott's relationship remains somewhat ambiguous due to the intense privacy both men maintained and the lack of definitive evidence. Grant's daughter, Jennifer Grant, has disputed any claims about her father's sexuality, insisting he was very straight. This tension between public perception, insider knowledge, and family recollections illustrates the complex legacy of sexuality in Golden Age Hollywood, where the truth often remains elusive, even decades later. What is clear is that Grant and Scott maintained an unusually close relationship spanning many years and multiple marriages, defying the strict heterosexual norms of their era. Their story represents the intricate dance many Hollywood stars performed between public image and private reality during a time when deviation from sexual norms could end even the most stellar career. Spencer, Tracy, and Katharine Hepburn. For Hollywood history, the relationship between Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn represents one of the greatest love stories ever told. A 25-year romance between two extraordinary talents who made 9 films together and maintained a deep connection until Tracy's death in 1967. The traditional narrative holds that they never married because Tracy, a devout Catholic, refused to divorce his wife Louise, though they had long been estranged. This tale of star-crossed love has been recounted in countless biographies, documentaries, and Hollywood lore. However, a more complex picture has emerged in recent decades, suggesting that the famous Tracy-Hepburn romance may have been largely manufactured by the studio system to cover both stars' same-sex relationships. According to several Hollywood insiders, including screenwriter and gay rights activist Larry Kramer, Hepburn and Spencer Tracy were both gay. They were publicly paired together by the studio. Everyone in Hollywood knows this is true. Tracy's sexuality has been the subject of numerous rumors within Hollywood circles for decades. He reportedly had a reputation as a heavy drinker who frequented the home of openly gay director George Cukor, where he allegedly had sexual encounters with younger men. Some accounts suggest Tracy maintained a long-term relationship with actor John Derek, known for his later marriages to Linda Evans and Bo Derek. The fact that Tracy remained married to his wife Louise despite their estrangement provided convenient cover for his private activities. Hepburn, with her distinctive patrician manner and preference for pants at a time when women rarely wore them, has long been the subject of speculation about her sexual orientation. According to controversial Hollywood fixer Scotty Bowers, he procured over 150 different women for Hepburn over the years. Bowers claimed to have become friends with Hepburn across 5 decades, noting that she was rather fickle and would only see each girl once or twice, and then tire of them. While such claims remain unverifiable, they align with persistent rumors about Hepburn's private life that circulated throughout Hollywood. The narrative of Tracy and Hepburn's great romance served multiple purposes within the studio system. It provided both stars with protection against rumors about their sexuality, while creating a compelling backstory that enhanced their on-screen chemistry. MGM, Tracy's home studio for many years, had a vested interest in maintaining the heterosexual public image of one of their most valuable male stars, while Hepburn's career benefited from the association with Tracy, both professionally and in terms of public perception. Their professional collaboration produced some of Hollywood's most beloved films, including Woman of the Year, Adam's Rib, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Tracy's final film. Whatever the true nature of their private relationship, their on-screen chemistry was undeniable. suggesting a genuine deep connection that transcended simple categorization. They may indeed have shared a profound bond, just not necessarily the romantic one presented to the public. The complexity of Tracy and Hepburn's relationship illustrates the elaborate facades constructed during Hollywood's golden age, where public narratives were carefully crafted to conceal realities that wouldn't conform to the moral standards of the era. The possibility that one of cinema's most celebrated love stories may have been largely manufactured reveals the extraordinary lengths to which the studio system would go to protect its valuable stars. Montgomery Clift. Few actors of Hollywood's golden age possessed the raw emotional intensity and haunting vulnerability of Montgomery Clift. With his sensitive performances in films like From Here to Eternity, A Place in the Sun, and The Misfits, Clift brought a new psychological depth to screen acting that influenced generations of performers. His brooding good looks and modernist approach to his craft made him one of the most respected actors of his generation. Behind Clift's artistic triumphs lay a deeply troubled personal life, marked by his struggles with his sexuality in an era of intense homophobia. Unlike some of his contemporaries who maintained heterosexual public images through marriages of convenience, Clift never married, choosing instead to guard his private life with fierce determination. This decision created immense psychological pressure as he attempted to navigate his career while concealing his authentic self. Clift's sexuality remained largely hidden from the public during his lifetime, though it was an open secret within Hollywood circles. His close friend Elizabeth Taylor, who starred opposite him in multiple films including A Place in the Sun and Suddenly Last Summer, became one of his greatest protectors. Decades after his death, Taylor confirmed his homosexuality during a speech at the 2000 GLAAD Media Awards, stating, "Come on, girls, he was so gay." Clift's brother Brooks later supported this characterization. The actor maintained several significant relationships with men throughout his life, though these were conducted with extreme discretion. Jack Larson, who played Jimmy Olsen in the 1950s Superman television series, claimed to have rejected Clift's romantic advances, though they remained friends. Playwright William Ing was reportedly infatuated with Clift, and some biographers suggest they had a relationship. Clift was also linked to choreographer Jerome Robbins and fellow actor Roddy McDowall, though definitive evidence of these relationships remains elusive due to the secrecy required at the time. A pivotal moment in Clift's life came in 1956 when he suffered a devastating car accident while filming Raintree County. Leaving a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's house, he crashed his car into a telephone pole, severely damaging his once perfect face. Taylor reportedly saved his life by pulling broken teeth from his throat to prevent him from choking. The accident marked the beginning of a decline characterized by increasing dependence on alcohol and painkillers to manage both physical and psychological pain. The dichotomy between Clift's public success and private suffering epitomizes the cruel contradictions faced by gay actors during Hollywood's golden age. His struggle to maintain his career while concealing his sexuality exacerbated his already significant mental health challenges and likely contributed to his self-destructive behaviors. When he died in 1966 at age 45 from a heart attack, he had been largely abandoned by an industry that had once celebrated his extraordinary talent, but couldn't accommodate his true identity. Clift's legacy extends beyond his remarkable performances to include his status as a gay icon, whose suffering illuminates the human cost of institutionalized homophobia. His friend and co-star, Elizabeth Taylor, who would later become a major AIDS activist, understood this connection, using her tribute to him at the GLAAD Awards to highlight the ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ acceptance in Hollywood and beyond. Tyrone Power, with his dark, exotic good looks and magnetic screen presence, Tyrone Power ranked among Hollywood's most popular leading men from the late 1930s through the 1950s. Starring in swashbuckling adventures like The Mark of Zorro and romances like Blood and Sand, Power's appeal crossed gender lines, making him one of 20th Century Fox's most bankable stars. His classically handsome features graced countless magazine covers, and his wartime service as a Marine Corps pilot only enhanced his heroic public image. Behind this carefully crafted persona, Power reportedly maintained relationships with men throughout his Hollywood career. According to several Hollywood historians, Power's bisexuality was an open secret within the industry, though stringently concealed from the public. Cesar Romero, himself gay but publicly closeted during his career, reportedly had a relationship with Power that lasted for several years during the height of both men's fame. Power's relationship with the notorious male madam Scotty Bowers has been documented in Bowers' controversial memoir, Full Service, and the subsequent documentary, Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. According to Bowers, Power was among his regular clients, and Bowers claimed to have arranged numerous sexual encounters for the actor with other men. While such claims remain difficult to verify independently, they align with persistent rumors that circulated throughout Hollywood about Power's sexuality. Like many stars of his era with same-sex attractions, Power maintained a heterosexual public image through multiple marriages. He was married 3 times, to French actress Annabella, Mexican actress Linda Christian, and Deborah Ann Menardos. These marriages produced 3 children and provided essential cover for Power's career in an era when even rumors of homosexuality could destroy a leading man's marketability. The contrast between his swashbuckling screen persona and his private desires reflects the complex performance of masculinity required of male stars during Hollywood's golden age. Power's sexual activities reportedly extended beyond exclusive homosexuality. According to Hector Arce's biography, The Secret Life of Tyrone Power, the actor engaged in sexual relationships with both men and women throughout his life. This sexual fluidity, while commonplace today, represented a significant deviation from the rigid heterosexual norms enforced by studios during his era. The fact that Power managed to maintain his career while engaging in such behavior speaks to both his extraordinary popularity and the effectiveness of the studio system in protecting its valuable stars. Power's untimely death at age 44 from a heart attack while filming Solomon and Sheba in 1958 cut short both his career and any possibility of eventually acknowledging his complete identity. Like many of his contemporaries, he took the full truth of his sexual orientation to his grave, leaving behind only rumors, second-hand accounts, and the testimony of those who claimed to have shared his intimacy. His story illustrates the elaborate performance required of stars whose private desires contradicted their carefully constructed public images. The contradiction between Power's screen persona, the dashing hero who always got the girl, and his alleged private preferences creates a poignant illustration of the gap between Hollywood fantasy and reality. His swashbuckling roles, portraying hypermasculine heroes defined by their romantic pursuit of women, stand in stark contrast to reports of his same-sex relationships, highlighting the performative nature of both his on-screen and off-screen identities. Ramon Novaro emerged as one of the great Latin lovers of the silent film era, achieving international stardom in films like The Student Prince and, most notably, as the title character in the 1925 epic Ben-Hur. Born José Ramón Gil Samaniego in Durango, Mexico, Novaro possessed a combination of exotic good looks, athletic physicality, and sensitive emotionality that made him a worthy successor to Rudolph Valentino as Hollywood's premier romantic lead. Unlike many of his contemporaries who struggled to maintain their careers after the transition to sound films, Novaro successfully navigated this technological revolution, appearing in numerous talkies throughout the 1930s. His melodious singing voice, showcased in films like The Pagan and Devil May Care, provided an additional asset as Hollywood embraced the musical genre. However, as he aged out of young romantic roles, his career gradually declined, leading to fewer and smaller parts by the 1940s. Throughout his career, Novaro maintained a private homosexual identity in an era when such an orientation could not only end a career, but also result in criminal prosecution. His sexuality was an open secret within Hollywood circles, but stringently concealed from the public. As a devout Catholic, Novaro reportedly struggled with reconciling his faith with his sexuality, creating significant internal conflict that occasionally manifested in periods of heavy drinking. Unlike some of his contemporaries who engaged in lavender marriages to conceal their homosexuality, Novaro remained unmarried throughout his life. This decision, while allowing him to avoid the deception of a sham marriage, also made him more vulnerable to speculation about his personal life. To counter such rumors, MGM occasionally arranged public dates between Novaro and various actresses, creating the illusion of heterosexual romantic interest while providing publicity for upcoming films. Novaro's story took a tragic turn on October 30th, 1968, when he was brutally murdered in his North Hollywood home by two young men, Paul and Tom Ferguson, whom he had invited over after reportedly contacting an agency for male companions. The brothers, ages 22 and 17, apparently believed Novaro kept large sums of money in his house. When they failed to find it, they tortured and eventually killed the 69-year-old former star, leaving his body to be discovered the following day. The sensationalized media coverage of Novaro's murder brought public attention to his homosexuality for the first time, with many reports focusing salaciously on this aspect of his life rather than on his significant contributions to film history. This posthumous outing represented a final indignity for an actor who had spent his entire career carefully guarding his private life from public scrutiny. The murder also highlighted the vulnerability faced by gay men of his generation, forced to seek companionship in ways that often exposed them to significant risk. Novaro's life and death illustrate the cruel paradox faced by gay actors during Hollywood's golden age, achieving fame and adoration while being forced to conceal their authentic selves, often at significant psychological cost. His tragic end serves as a stark reminder of the very real dangers that accompanied homosexuality in an era of intense societal hostility, when even former screen idols could become victims of violence motivated by prejudice and exploitation. Conclusion: the hidden affairs and secret identities of these Golden Age Hollywood stars reveal not just personal stories, but also illuminate the broader cultural forces that shaped both the entertainment industry and American society during this pivotal era. The elaborate deceptions required of these actors, from lavender marriages to studio-arranged dates to absolute silence about their true selves, reflect the profound homophobia that permeated mid-20th century America and the extraordinary lengths to which both individuals and institutions would go to maintain heterosexual appearances. The studio system, with its near-total control over stars' public images, functioned as both protector and prison for gay and bisexual actors. While studios worked diligently to shield their valuable properties from career-ending scandals, they simultaneously enforced the very system of compulsory heterosexuality that necessitated such protection. Stars like Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter found themselves utterly dependent on studio publicity departments to maintain the elaborate fictions upon which their careers were built, creating a profound power imbalance that limited their personal autonomy. This history challenges us to reconsider the seemingly innocent fan magazines, publicity photos, and carefully crafted studio biographies that shaped public perception of these stars. What appears to modern eyes as transparent artifice was, for contemporary audiences, convincing reality. The effectiveness of this deception speaks to both the skill of studio publicity departments and the public's willingness to embrace comforting fictions over complex truths about their screen idols. Perhaps most poignantly, these stories reveal the enormous personal cost of maintaining such deceptions. The psychological strain of living double lives, adored by millions for false personas while hiding authentic selves, contributed to various self-destructive behaviors evident in many of these biographies. From Montgomery Clift's dependency on alcohol and painkillers to Rock Hudson's reportedly insatiable sexual risk-taking, the toll of sustained deception manifested in patterns of behavior that ultimately shortened lives and diminished talents. As we look back on these Golden Age stars from our contemporary perspective, their stories provide context for understanding the evolution of LGBTQ+ representation in Hollywood. The journey from Rock Hudson's forced marriage to protect his image to openly gay actors receiving Oscar nominations for playing gay characters represents an extraordinary transformation in both industry practices and societal attitudes. Yet persistent challenges to full inclusion and representation suggest that this evolution remains incomplete. The revelation of these secret histories also invites us to revisit these actors' performances with new eyes, recognizing the subtextual dimensions that might have infused their work. When Rock Hudson played a straight man pretending to be gay to seduce Doris Day in Pillow Talk, was he drawing on his own experience of performing a false identity? Did Montgomery Clift's haunting vulnerability on screen reflect his internal struggles with his sexuality? Such questions enrich our understanding of these performances, adding layers of meaning beyond what contemporary audiences could have perceived. Ultimately, the secret affairs of Golden Age Hollywood stars remind us that human desire and identity have always transcended the narrow categories imposed by society. Despite extraordinary institutional pressure to conform to heterosexual norms, these individuals found ways to express their authentic sexualities, however constrained and secretive those expressions might have been. Their struggles and sacrifices contributed, however invisibly at the time, to the gradual expansion of sexual freedom that later generations would experience more openly. What other secrets might still lie hidden in Hollywood's golden past? How many other celebrated stars maintained double lives that remain undiscovered? As our understanding of sexuality grows more nuanced and records from this era become more accessible, new revelations continue to emerge, challenging our perception of cinema history and inviting us to reconsider the complex humanity behind the carefully crafted images that still captivate us today. Behind every iconic performance and legendary romance may lie stories still waiting to be told. Stories that remind us that the most compelling human dramas often unfolded not on the silver screen, but behind it.